Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm John, and it has been a bit since I've put out a video. I want to say like 3 months or so, and that is because it is summer, and summer is typically my busy season. I'm a filmmaker, and I typically shoot a lot of commercials, short films, documentaries, that sort of thing. But during the summer, I also shoot a lot of weddings, so I've been in full-on wedding season mode. If this is your first time here, I would love it if you subscribe and give the old page a like. But also take a look at some of my other stuff that I do. I do a lot of diverse things, and I would really love it if you checked out some of my other projects I have. But today we are here to talk about the all-new MK 30th edition. This is the third iteration of Mortal Kombat from Arcade1Up. And I previously had the Generation 1 cabinet, and I want to talk about whether or not the differences with the feature sets and the game lineup really make this an overall worthwhile purchase, because there have been some concessions with this one, and namely the monitor. So we're just going to get right into it. Is the monitor really that bad?
No. No.
Yes, it is. It is terrible. Oddly enough, though, for some reason, the washout only happens from the right side viewing angle. So it seems to be a up and down and right to left thing, not a left to right. If you look at this from the left side at an extreme angle, it's perfectly fine. But looking at it from the right side, it just becomes this weird, crazy mess of colors that don't make any sense. And even if you are standing directly in front of it, it's still pretty washed out. If you move up or down slightly, you can see the color shift and stuff like that. It is a dreadful monitor, and something that, if it is due to a inability to get the old BOE monitors that we've come to love the past couple iterations, then that's at least understandable. But if this is something that they were just cheaping out on so they could save like $100 or something, this is one of those things I gladly would have paid an extra $100 to, get a better monitor, because this cabinet is such a beautiful piece. It's one of the best looking machines they've put out to date. This is, the artwork is gorgeous on it. The control deck is astonishing. Like, this control deck is finally like where these should be at. Like, this is where all fighters should be moving forward as far as the control deck design goes. There's plenty of space. The buttons and the sticks feel really good. My other fighters, for Street Fighter and Killer Instinct, I swapped out the controls for Sanwa and both of those. And I'm not going to do that here, because this feels really good. It feels really clicky, and it's got like a weightiness to it that's nice. And it feels really good for the sort of input type controls that Mortal Kombat has. Whereas, the Sanwas work better, I think, with Street Fighter and Killer Instinct, which have more of like the quarter circle, half circle motions. Mortal Kombat's very much like directional based combat, so they feel really good, really responsive. No complaints there at all. The lineup on here is pretty solid. I've never been the biggest fan of like Gauntlet or Mortal Kombat 3, but for those of you that have been on about not liking, I think it was Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 was the one that they've been that came standard with the past MK legacies. And now I think they have the regular Mortal Kombat 3 for those of you who wanted that one. Or maybe it's the opposite way around. I can't remember which one it is. But I've personally never been a Mortal Kombat 3 fan. It's one of those games I played a lot when I was a kid, but I never even really loved it then. And now as I play it, I just dislike it even more. It's when the series starts to get really goofy, in my opinion. But, it's got all three of the Mortal Kombats, 2 iterations of Mortal Kombat 3. You can put scan lines on with these, with the options, which I think look okay. It's not as good as the scan lines feature you have in Killer Instinct. That comes with a really cool CRT scan line feature, which looks fantastic. It really does replicate that old feeling of a TV really well. Whereas here, it's like, it's okay. It hides some of the hurt that comes with not having any scan lines and just the image being too sharp for an old game. So it kind of hides the jaggies a little bit on the character models and stuff like that. So it's a little bit better, but unfortunately with the overall lack of quality in the monitor, the lack of contrast is even more evident when you turn scan lines on. So again, that's one of those, For every like pro, there's a con with this cabinet, unfortunately, and they all mostly stem from the monitor. The online play is also really not very good right now. I do think that's something that'll wind up getting fixed or patched, or maybe they're just having some issues with the servers at present. But I've played a few online matches, and there were a couple of matches I just straight up lost because I couldn't keep up. The controls weren't keeping up with the character, so you just can't pay attention to what's going on. It's just jumping in and out and stuff like that. But given the performance of how good the online is with Killer Instinct, I feel like that's something that'll probably get worked out in the future. But there's no fixing that monitor. It's a real garbage monitor, and the people that are saying, "Oh, it's not that bad," it's like, no, it is. It's really bad. I'm something of a display snob, and I'm rocking a 77-inch LG OLED as my main display, and it's tough. Like, anything feels bad compared to that, but this feels like a really old computer monitor from like the early 2000s where the washout is so bad. But again, like you're getting a great lineup of games. You're getting a really rock solid cabinet that looks beautiful and arcade accurate. Some people complaining about like there being yellow block buttons. Who cares, guys? I mean, swap them out if you don't like them, but it's not like a hill to really die on as far as that goes. But the build quality in this thing's great. We're getting another slide-in marquee like we did with Terminator 2. And this time, unlike Terminator 2, the marquee is really great. I actually won't be replacing this. This will be the first time I won't be replacing a stock Arcade1Up marquee, which is saying something. They finally nailed it this time. It looks great. I just wish it were a little brighter. I wish the lights behind the LED, in the LED were a little bit brighter because it doesn't get quite as vibrant as my other cabinets do. But again, that's a small complaint. That's a little nitpick. It's nice to have stereo sound finally on this. I upgraded the speakers on this cabinet, put a sound system in it, put a light-up coin door on it, some new vinyl on the front. So this thing has been customized to my liking, but having had the old Gen 1 Mortal Kombat, which had the little mono speaker, there were just certain sounds that were cut out, and like you just couldn't get that full experience. Here, it sounds great. And now that I have that sound system in there, it really does feel like the old Q-Sound version of like Mortal Kombat that used to like rock your ears back in the day. Has good basses and everything. It's really nice. My favorite thing about the lineup in this cabinet is having a root beer tapper. I could give or take really any of the other games on here. They're all fine, I guess, but I was never really the biggest Rampage or Gauntlet fan. Paperboy, I could live without. That was a game that used to drive me nuts even back in the Nintendo days. And there's really nothing else on here that I really care too much about. But Root Beer Tapper is like one of my all-time favorite arcade games. This is one of those ones that I'd be willing to spend like $700 on just like a solo cabinet of. If that was the only game on there, and it was like tricked out to look like the old Root Beer Tapper cabinet, I would totally buy that. I also really like the size of these cabinets. With the Killer Instinct being bigger, and this new MK30th being just as big as Killer Instinct, Street Fighter feels really small. And all the complaints that people had about the viewing angle on that particular machine, they're absolutely correct. Like, I'm 5'6", and standing head on, looking at it, like, it gets a little bit of cutoff from the top, and I'm not a tall person, so that machine's just got it just feels really small. Even compared to the Gen 1 Mortal Kombat I had, even next to that, it felt small. It's very strange how like it just plays like an optical illusion on you. Now having Killer Instinct and Mortal Kombat 30th next to each other, that Street Fighter just feels way too small, and I don't really play it that often because I don't like the playing experience. The control deck's super uncomfortable. Not being able to see the screen all that great is just really annoying. So I'm think I'm going to sell that Street Fighter cab and pick up the new one that's coming out. I feel like for the fighters, they finally nailed the height of these perfectly. I'm seeing a lot of weird complaints people have like with these 3-inch attachments they're putting on there. I think they're great. I think it's awesome, and it doesn't make the riser any bigger, so all your cabinets look like they're the same height. It's not like distracting as far as that goes, and I really just like the added height that it gives you. And with that new control deck, like it's perfect. It's perfect for a fighter. I just wish that they had locked down that design when they'd made Killer Instinct, because that control deck in Killer Instinct, it's not the worst, it's not the best, it's doable, but it would have been nice to have like that angular control deck with that little bit of a wider stance to it. It's really very comfortable on MK30th, and that's one of the main reasons I'm going to be getting rid of Street Fighter and upgrading to that new version, because it really does make that much of a difference, especially when you're, you know, trying to play a fighter. It's nice to have that added height. So I think that's really going to do it for this video. You know, overall, it's a really great cabinet. If you can live with the monitor, then it's totally worth the value. It's like only $500 for this thing, and you're getting like 14 games on here, online play, a great control deck, you know, a great light up marquee. It's really they're really starting to come into their own as far as you know, the layout and look of these cabinets. I just wish that we'd get a little bit more consistency with the quality of parts. Like, that just seems to be so up in the air. So now it's just like, you know, what kind of monitor are we going to get now on each individual cabinet coming up? Is it going to be BOE? Like, Dragon's Lair supposedly has like a really nice BOE in it, but that's also been in development longer. So are they using parts that they'd had living around and now they just don't have them? It's just like, it's so hard to tell because Arcade1Up doesn't like to communicate or, you know, answer these kinds of questions. So I feel like that makes it kind of tricky because, you know, it's weird having Gen 1 monitors that look better than these current gen monitors. That's just very strange to me. Also with my monitor, I have like a weird, it looks like a blown out pixel when you start it up, but it gradually fades and goes away as the monitor gets warmer. So if anyone out there has a similar problem, or if anyone from Arcade1Up happens to be watching this, let me know if that's something I need to file a ticket for, because it does go away, but it does have like a blown out looking pixel when I start it up. It's very weird, but it does go away. So I don't know what that is. I don't like it, but it's not the end of the world. So if you're a Mortal Kombat fan like me, you know, this is a game that had a tremendous impact on me as a kid. I spent so many quarters on this as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid growing up. I used to just hang out in arcades all day and fight people on putting quarters on the glass playing this. So this one means a lot to me personally. So this, for me, even though the monitor's trash, having this being like sort of the penultimate Mortal Kombat experience, I think is worth, is worth it, even though the monitor isn't the best. So I think that'll do it for today. Feel free to comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff. I'm very curious what you think about this for the people out there that have also purchased this. Like, can you live with a monitor? Or is it like a deal breaker for you? Because that seems to be the big argument as far as the deciding factor for buying this cabinet. But stay tuned to the channel. I'm going to be having some more reviews coming out. Not going to review the Street Fighter Legacy I have, because I am going to be picking up that new Hadouken edition. So when that does come out, hopefully we'll get a review on that, and maybe I can finally show you guys the process of putting in speakers and all that stuff, because I do have that recorded on a previous video. I just never released that video, and I'm probably not going to now. So the next cabinet I get, I will show you guys the process of upgrading speakers, how I do my coin doors, all that stuff. So until then, thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you on the next one.